Good morning, y'all. We are back with another edition of DNVR Rams Live. As always, I am your host, Justin Michael. We're talking about a thriller, an absolutely epic college basketball game at Moby last night. CSU hangs on 75-72. Jalen Lake hits the game winner. Jalen Crocker-Johnson with a really timely offensive rebound, dishes out the game-winning assist. The Rams led by as much as 17 in that second half. Things really started to fall apart around the 10-minute mark or so. Tyson Degenhart, dude, has been killing CSU for 4 years. He is a monster. He had a great game, 27 points, just killed CSU in the post. But talk about a gritty, resilient performance and a really fun game, a really high-level college basketball game both ways. I felt like both teams hit some pretty tough shots. I thought they valued their offensive possessions. I thought both teams, for the most part, there's going to be some lulls here and there, but for the most part, were locked in defensively. And this was a back and forth battle between two teams trying to keep their Mountain West title hopes alive. And this is a huge win. This is a huge win for this program. It had the opportunity to be a real catastrophic gut punch, but to hang on and to win this one coming off of the win in Laramie, where I felt like CSU played one of their better games of the season, if not their best game of the season thus far. Really impressive stuff, especially after a rough showing in Viejas, which was predictable, but still a less mature team might have let that compound. A rough night turns into a rough week, and you let a really pivotal stretch slip through your fingers. And instead, CSU 4-1 over the last 5, 6-2 in league play. You can't overlook anybody, and that's important. I mean, we saw it last night in the spring. San Diego State should have lost to Air Force. They stole one in overtime, got away with an illegal screen, but, they're never going to get that call in that moment. Heartbreaker for Air Force. We've seen it, though. Anybody's capable of beating anybody. We've seen teams like UNLV beat San Diego State and Utah State and lose to Wyoming. We've seen New Mexico lose to San Jose State. It's just been all over the place. You can't overlook anyone. But now sitting at 6-2 with Air Force and Fresno State coming up, the two worst teams in the league, you have a really nice chance to put yourself at 8-2 at the halfway mark of the league slate. You're firmly in the mix at that point. I mean, you look, San Diego State's already got 3 league losses. Boise State's already got 4. Those teams realistically probably out of it. I think it's going to take 16 wins to win the league this year, give or take. We'll see what happens. I mean, obviously a lot of chaos could ensue. But with what we're seeing from New Mexico, with what we're seeing from Utah State, it's definitely going to take a strong finish. If CSU is actually going to win the league, they're certainly going to have to pull some upsets. You're going to have to steal some. You're going to have to defend home court. You're going to have to likely win out at Moby. And, that means beating a really good Utah State team, getting revenge against San Diego State. You got to take care of business of Nevada, who you've already beaten Reno, but they're kind of frisky occasionally. But you've got a really nice opportunity here. And I think if you would have said that would be the case a month ago, I'm not sure a lot of folks would have believed you, So I've just been really impressed with this team's growth, with their ability to improve as the season has gone on, and that they were able to grind one out on a night where they didn't have Rashawn Bemba. He has been such an important piece of the puzzle for this squad, particularly down low. He gives you that presence in the post, and then defensively, I think he's probably going to hang a little bit better against Degenhart than some of what we saw last night. Not the best Ethan Morton game. Admittedly, there's not a whole lot that anybody can do to stop Tyson Degenhart. That guy has been giving CSU buckets since David Roddy was still in the picture. But I was just really impressed with this team's ability to battle through. Nikola Japa, who's hardly played at all this year, steps into the starting lineup. He has 4 points and a rebound in his first 90 seconds. We'll play some clips of Niko Medved talking about a lot of things, including his thoughts on Japa later on in the show. But I thought this was a massive win for CSU. Obviously, it would have been great to steal both games on the road last week. Realistically, you hope to split and give yourself an opportunity to come back home and beat a team that's right there in the mix with you. And, CSU pulled it out. CSU Boise State games historically tend to always be back and forth. The series, Boise leads 18-16 all time, so highly competitive. It's 6 games apiece over the last 12 matchups, 5 of which were one possession games. I mean, it almost always is a grind when these two end up facing off. And for the Rams to pull this one off without Rashawn Bemba in the lineup, with Bowen Bourne taking a shot to the face and basically not being able to play the majority of the game, I was very impressed. CSU stars stepped up in a major way. There were so many key contributors in this win. It wasn't like it was all one guy. I mean, Jalen Lake hits the game-winning shot. Clifford very quietly had 27 and 7 and one of the sickest in-game dunks I've ever seen at Moby Arena. But this was a massive moment here. So I'm going to play a clip of Niko Medved kind of giving his instant reaction last night, and then answering my question on kind of what flipped for Boise State. After that, we'll get into takeaways. We'll talk about key stats. We'll play some more clips. I'll talk about this awesome shot from Jalen Lake. I mean, he's such an easy player to root for. Not a lot of guys in his position would have stuck around for 4 years and been committed the way that he has. And for him to have the success that he's having this year is a testament to this coaching staff, but it's a testament to his maturity. And I couldn't be happier for him, because the guy has been a selfless teammate. He's worked his tail off. He's been that 6-man role. He's, been willing to do the dirty work so that other stars could shine brighter. And this season, he is really living up to his potential, because we've all been excited about Jalen Lake, and he's been a great player since he was a true freshman. But I just think it's awesome to see him get this opportunity, to get this moment. And this team is really easy to root for. It's just a good group of guys. But here is Niko Medved's reaction post-game and kind of answering my question about what flipped for Boise State in that second half.
High-level college basketball game tonight. I thought it was a great game. Game of runs. You knew Boise would make a run. I tell you one thing, I can't wait for Tyson Dagenhart to graduate. He is a heck of a player. Man, we were teetering there at the end, but our guys just, showed a lot of poise and had the will to just make one more play than they did. So many guys stepped up tonight, with Rashawn being out. But I got to say this, I'm so happy and proud for Jalen Lake. Here's a guy who's been in our program for 4 years. Like, no one's had it harder than his class. They didn't get their state tournament or a year because of COVID. Didn't get to take official visits. They've played against older players his whole career. This dude has done nothing but just work his tail off every day, had a phenomenal attitude. Asked him to come off the bench last year for the team, do anything you ask him to do. And nobody deserves to have that happen to him more than him. And so I'm so happy that could happen. And just for the record, I tried 4 times to call timeout, at the end. And I don't know, I really like Kelly. I don't know how he didn't hear me, because that was a situation we probably would have fouled. But you know what? Considering what's happened this year, we're owed that one coming off. So great win by our guys tonight.
What did you feel like changed in that second half, just in terms of Boise's little comeback run?
I think 2 things. We got off to a good start in the second half, right? We were really going well. I think we extended the lead to whatever it was. I thought the thing that hurt us the most is we fouled a lot early in the first half, and they were in the bonus quickly. And I thought some of them were silly and cheap, and then they really weren't scoring, but they were making free throws. They were getting to the line like crazy, and I thought that really got their confidence going. And then when they're in the bonus so early, what happens? I think you don't get as aggressive defensively that way. And then, Tyson Dagenhart's a great player. I mean, he's a great player. We missed 2 front ends of one-on-ones. We had a couple things at the rim that didn't go our way. We probably should have brought a little bit more help to him, in the post. It's not something that we're great at, but we probably should have. We wanted to do that when I called a timeout with 3 minutes to go, and we didn't really execute it, the right way. But at the end of the day, you knew it was going to be a war, and we made one more play than they did.
Students are back. It's a
All right. I think that's a good way to kind of segue into the takeaways here. We've got a lot to dive into. Shout out to everybody in the Toyota chat. If you wouldn't mind giving us a thumbs up, I certainly would appreciate it. Keep your questions and comments coming. We'll star them. I will answer as many as I can at the end of the show. Going to try and stay on track as best as I can here. I'm very good at getting derailed really quickly. But there were a couple things I wanted to hit on there, starting with the end game sequence. You get a big offensive rebound after Neek drives, maybe got fouled. Neek thought he got fouled. I think it was close. In that situation, I'm all right with letting him play on if it's not egregious, but a huge offensive rebound from Jalen Crocker-Johnson. He's in a sea of orange. There's 4 guys around him. He just out-hustles all the Boise State players, pulls it down, makes the smart play, doesn't try and go back up with it, dishes it out to a wide-open Jalen Lake, cashes a jumper. Couldn't be happier for a guy like him, as Medved mentions. But then you've got the big decision. You're up 3 at that point. We know what's happened in Moby Arena multiple times. I think 3 different times over the last year and a half where they've been up 3 in that spot, and they have given up a game tying shot. They've given up, shots to lose. It's been a tough spot, and they wanted to foul. They did want to foul. I had a lot of people asking me online afterwards, why didn't they learn their lesson? You can see it clear as day in that clip of Niko Medved jumping up and down trying to call a timeout. Just isn't granted one. Thank God that Cardenas didn't make that shot. That would have been just such a gut punch in that moment after already experiencing an emotional roller coaster at that point. I think it probably would have been too much to withstand. I don't know if CSU has enough gas to pull it out in overtime with the shorthanded squad, but it bounced CSU's way. They were due, which Medved joked, they were due for one of those to finally go their way. He also, talked about getting in foul trouble early on, and there were a couple of ticky-tack ones that were frustrating. Also, just a couple of silly fouls that CSU didn't need to, commit, just trying to do a little bit too much. Late shot contests, a little too much contact on loose ball, stuff like that. But it was a big factor because Boise went into the bonus early. They went 11 of 11 at the free throw line in that second half, and I really do feel like that was a big part of what allowed them to get some momentum. I'm going to continue to talk about all of that. We're going to break this game down, talk about the individual standouts. We'll play some more post-game clips. Real quick, though, do want to take just a quick break. We want to shout out our partners that make all of this possible, and that starts with Game Time. Game Time is making it easier than ever to get all of your tickets to all your favorite events. We're talking sports, comedy, stand-ups, and theater, you name it. They've got, I think I just said stand-up theater. I think I just invented something. If it exists, Game Time has tickets for it, though. And they're just making it easier than ever. The Game Time curation feature is awesome. Filters out all the fluff, shows you only the best of the best. The thing about Game Time is they have such an insane assortment of tickets for everything that it can almost be a little bit overwhelming to sift through. And that's why they added this Game Time Picks curation feature. If you're, in a hurry, you're trying to rest assured knowing you're getting the best possible deal. You can always do that when you're shopping with Game Time. Everything about it is just so much easier. It's all in pricing. You don't get hit with 8 million fees at the end. You can get a panoramic view of your seat before you purchase to make sure you're going to like the seat that you're getting. Take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use that code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I also want to shout out the official vehicle of DNVR, and that, of course, is Toyota. Trucks have always been a part of Toyota's DNA for generations. They built durable legends destined for greatness and perfect for Colorado. Whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the weight of the world, there's a Toyota truck that's just right for you. Check out the all-new Tacoma. The Land Cruiser is sick as well. They've got 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, perfect for Colorado. And they currently offer more low and zero-emission vehicles combined than any other automaker to give customers numerous choices to reduce their carbon footprint. 16 hybrid vehicles to choose from, like the Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck. Not to be outdone, Toyota SUVs take command on the road and on the trail, so you can explore the road less traveled without sacrificing smooth city rides in SUVs like the RAV4 and Grand Highlander. Toyota is a proud partner of CSU Athletics, the official vehicle of DNVR. Toyota, Let's go places. All right. We had a question here in the Toyota chat from Quinn. Good morning, Quinn. Japa looked good in his minutes. Does he get more of a look down the stretch? That's a good place to start. I'll play a clip in a couple minutes after we get through these takeaways where Medved gives a couple of thoughts on what he saw from Japa. I kind of asked him about just how it might be a little bit different from a spacing perspective, but he can bring something a little bit different to the table. One of the things that stood out to me immediately about Japa is the way he was actively cutting to the rim. The first bucket he got is kind of a design play that they run to begin lots of games. They've had a ton of success with it. Joel Scott had it. They ran it for Roddy. They're running it. They ran it last night for Japa, and they were able to have success with it. But he kept looking for the ball. And, I liked his aggressiveness. I liked his assertiveness. That when you're 6'11", it's going to give you an opportunity to win some of those 50-50 balls on the glass that maybe somebody that's 6'6", 6'7" isn't going to pull down. He looks solid. Now, I do think that there's a reason he hasn't played as much this season, and part of that is that he doesn't pass the ball as well as Niko would typically prefer his fives to or shoot the ball. He has that skill set. He's versatile. I mean, he can do a little bit of all. He just needs some refinement. And then defensively, he's got to grow. What I would add is last night, I would have given him a couple of more minutes in the second half just because things were flowing really well when he was out there. I thought he was a pest, even if he's not like a true rim protector. I thought he did a good job of at least, being in the way, just kind of being a pest there. And Ethan Morton is kind of supposed to be your defensive specialist. He's a good rebounder as well. And he does some things offensively in terms of, making great swing passes and stuff like that. He is a really good passer. But he was kind of getting cooked by Degenhart, just being real. And if he's not getting stops, he's not contributing a ton on the offensive end. I'm not going to harp on it because Medved likes to stay pretty true to his rotations. He'll tinker a bit here and there, small in-game adjustments, but more or less, like if you follow CSU, especially in the first half, like the same guys are going to come in at the same time. They have a process. They like guys to know what their role is and have a general idea of when they're going to be on the floor. You can get a little bit, you can kind of stray from your lineup and be a little bit erratic with your decisions at time. And then all of a sudden you have no continuity, no flow within your rotation. And so I understand that. Like, you have a rotation that's been working for you of late. You don't want to stray too far from that. They're going to get some minutes for Jorgensen as well. I would have gotten Japa a couple of more minutes just because I thought he looked good. But I thought that Japa looked intriguing enough to potentially, justify some more playing time down the line. I don't think all of a sudden he's going to be your starting five and everything changes. Like, they've really locked into something here with Bemba in the starting lineup. But I do think there's a world in which, maybe he can give you 8 to 10 minutes a night down the stretch and then, give him an opportunity to develop. And moving forward, we see a little bit more of them. This is a young team. They've got a lot of young players that are contributing in a significant way. This isn't last season where you've got Joel Scott in his 5th year and, Neek is a senior and Zay in his 5th year. Like, you've got a lot of second and, 3rd year guys that are playing really big roles for this team. And to beat a team like Boise State, which has a lot of experience between, Cardenas and Degenhart and Omar Stanley, that's not a young team that they're going up against. It speaks to the development of this team. And that's a big reason, why you don't want to tinker with the rotation too much is like what you have going here. It's working. Now, Bemba's availability is going to be a big factor. We'll see if he's able to play on Saturday. My gut is he probably misses it. He's missed practice all week, missed this game. Not sure what exactly his illness is per se. He's missed a lot of time over the last 2 years between being sick, being injured. He's a really good player and he's really impactful out there, but he's got some dependability issues. So again, like there could be more opportunities for Japa down the line. But I thought it was encouraging that he stepped up in the moment. And I think it's a testament to what he's been doing behind the scenes, because you don't have that success if you're not locked in and practicing. And well, and frankly, with this staff, there's no charity minutes. If you're not doing the right things in practice, they're not going to play you. They don't care. They just won't play you. So he's coming along, and I thought that was good to see. I think all these guys, all these young guys, are really making a major leap this season, which is encouraging. Bembo, when he's been out there, has been great. Kyan Evans is really ascending right now, which has been awesome. Just so many key contributors. You had 5 different guys hit a 3 in the first 10 minutes of this win. That continued throughout the night. Admittedly, I'm always a little bit nervous when you make a couple of 3s right off the bat, and it can just make you get complacent, I feel like, and then instead of making that extra pass, instead of trying to drive to the rim, you settle for a jumper and you put it up. And maybe in the second half, there were a couple of instances where that happened. You got to credit Boise as well. I thought they locked in defensively. They did some little things well, like hit free throws, like just force the issue and keep battling and staying in the fight. And obviously they took the lead with a minute left, and it's scary hours there for a second. And Moby, you can feel the air kind of get sucked out of the building after Degenhart hits that shot late. But to CSU's credit, even throughout that run, even while it's extremely evident that Boise State has all the momentum at the moment, the Rams did a good job of just continuing to fight. You're taking a couple of big blows, but I'm going to get a couple of jabs in here myself. I'm going to throw an uppercut. I'm going to keep countering. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to stay in the fight. And ultimately, both fighters are kind of staggering at the end, and CSU lands that knockout blow with the Jalen Lake 3. But there were just so many crucial moments. We've talked about Jalen Crocker-Johnson's offensive rebound. That's huge. There was a stretch there with about 3 minutes left in the second half. CSU's up 3. They'd had a couple of stagnant offensive possessions. Boise had really ramped up the defensive intensity. Kyan, he'd had a couple of turnovers. Neek had a turnover as well in that stretch. And you're wondering, is this thing going to get away from CSU? How are they going to respond here? And Neek kind of tosses it out to Kyan at the top of the key, and he just jacks it up in rhythm, without a thought, confident, swish, his third 3 of the game. And I just thought that was such a significant moment, because, it puts you up 6. And even though Boise State, they still go on like an 8-0 run after that, and they ultimately take the lead there for a second, I just felt like that was one of those moments where you could tell, even though they were staggering a little bit, Boise had them, on the ropes there. They were still in that fight, and they weren't shell-shocked, which can happen to you when you're up 17, and then all of a sudden you look up at the clock, and it's a tie game, or you're down 2, with a minute left. Good teams find a way to withstand that. And CSU, on a night where they didn't have their whole squad, on a night where they really needed a win if they wanted to remain relevant in the league, they pulled it out. And now you have given yourself an opportunity here down the stretch to play some fun basketball, which is exciting, because I think about a month ago, most of us were thinking, when's spring ball going to be around so we can start talking about football again? And instead, now you're right there in the mix. You've got so many different guys playing well. We've seen so much growth on both sides of the ball. But defensively in particular, I think night to night, this team just brings it. Yeah, there's going to be a 4 or 5 minute stretch here and there. There was I can't remember if it was in the second half or the first half. There was like a stretch where CSU had some sloppy turnovers. You just give up easy transition buckets the other way. Medved immediately calls a timeout. They come out and respond. I just like this team's ability to withstand runs and continue to fight back. Like even in San Diego State, I felt like the Rams hung in the fight there. They didn't create enough offensively, and it got ugly late over the final 10 minutes or so. But I think this team's, I think they're tough. They're maybe not the flashiest. They're not top to bottom the most athletic team I've ever seen, but they've got guys that understand their roles, and they're improving, man. I think the mentality is correct on both sides of the ball. You have 19 assists tonight, another night where you double up the opponent in assists, but you hit big shots all game long. Yes, negative Nelly Justin at times. I'm sitting there with a pit in my stomach because I'm seeing 3s fall early, because I'm like, oh man, they're going to get complacent here. These 3s that are allowing you to have a double-digit lead, despite the fact that I felt like Boise was playing pretty good and getting good looks themselves. If those stop falling for you, what are you going to be able to do? Because Boise does have the upper hand in the post, particularly when you don't have Bemba. And just all night long, whether it was Cayenne, whether it was Jalen Lake, whether it's Neek, whether it's Kashawn Williams, you saw Jorgensen hit another big three. That kid's not scared of the moment. He had one late in Wyoming too, when Wyoming had their run, where he's just like, you're gonna give me this kind of space? You know who the fuck I am? I'm gonna drill this and then I'm gonna let you hear about it. Excuse my language there. I'm hyped up about him though. I love this team's attitude. I think they play the game the right way. I think there's a selfless mentality. I think there's a collective buy-in on both sides of the ball, and we're seeing steady growth. This isn't a great offensive rebounding team, but they've been better in league play. This was a team that was pretty streaky shooting the ball early on in the season, but you look, they hit 11 threes in this win last night. It's their third game in a row at home where they've hit 11 plus threes. That's what they've averaged over the last 5, 11 made threes, or it's like 10.6. So if you average up 11, this isn't a fluke. The things that they are doing are sustainable. The growth that they have shown is significant. And what I think has been this team's biggest strength as the season has gone on is just been finding ways to get more and more pieces of the puzzle involved. Early on, it's a lot of Neek and Lake, and they were awesome in this game. Like I said, Neek had 27 and 7 and a highlight dunk. I mean, he was awesome. Had a steal, he had a block. You got a double-digit performance from Jalen Lake, and he hits the game-winning shot. Those guys are still doing their thing. But now you're getting 13 out of Cayenne, and he hits 3 threes in this game. Kashawn Williams and Bowen Bourne are shooting the ball like we knew they were capable of. I've said it a million times, but there was a stretch in that first month where Cayenne, Kashawn, and Bowen are all like sub 20% from 3. And I know that all of them are good shooters, then it's going to even out. But it's hard for me to convince you guys when you're seeing them put up some bricks there for a couple of weeks, but the numbers have evened out. They've always gotten good looks. The good looks are just starting to fall with more consistency, and it's more shooters that are getting involved in the mix, which has been big for the spacing. It's made it so much harder for teams to just lock in on one guy, and if he can't get it going, then CSU's SOL. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with the amount of guys that are contributing with this team right now. And I think that there are a couple dudes on this team that are really only scratching the surface of what they can be. Jorgensen, Cayenne Evans, even Bemba, if he could just stay healthy. Like, I think all these guys have a ceiling that they haven't even reached yet. And that's all well. Some of these vets are just playing really consistently night to night. You know what you're going to get out of Neek. You know what you're going to get out of Jalen Lake. I think Bowen and Kashawn have steadied their presence out there, and the young guys continue to grow, which is huge. I want to play another clip from Niko Medved here before we talk about some key stats. I could just kind of ask him about Joppa. And so here's Medved on that.
Another thing that kind of changed was Joppa was on your starting lineup. He was, you put him in, and what about that first run kind of impressed you with that dunk and that layup?
That was great. We're at play, and they left him open. He gets 2 dunks to start. He's thinking, like, everyone's probably looking at me, why the heck hadn't he been playing, right? all year, whatever. But you know what? We needed those 15 minutes tonight. And, it was interesting. A couple weeks ago, I pulled him aside in practice, not knowing what the scenario would be. And I just really praised him. I said, hey, man, your attitude's been tremendous. And I know it's hard not to play, but you just got to keep staying with it. He does a great job on the scout team, and just keep your attitude going. You never know, when your chance is going to come. And then here we were, right, today. And I tell guys this all the time, when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. And so, by his attitude and work ethic, he was ready. And again, we needed those 15 minutes tonight.
Maybe a little bit different skill set than some of the other bigs, just in terms of how he spaces the floor. But it seemed like he made an effort consistently to cut when he was out there.
Yeah. No, he's got good instincts, as a player. He's got good hands and all that stuff like that. So he's got to keep working, just keep getting better. He's got good size. And again, today I thought he did a really nice job for us in the minutes he was in there.
Neek said he's not sure if this team wins this game earlier in the season. What does it speak to this team's emotional maturity to be able to kind of withstand that run?
I never thought of it that way, but I think he's probably right. I think as you keep going through it and you keep being in these situations together, like you get all these new guys and you can have a group who's maybe, got a chance to be a good team, but they haven't gone through anything together yet. And I think as us going through things together, in particularly adversity, Justin, I think adversity is where you really learn about yourself and who you are. Because we have high character guys, you know what I mean? I think that's given them the ability to just stay with it and work through it. And they're just great guys to be around every day. And so it's pretty cool, right, to look at where we were about 6 weeks ago and then look at where we are now. And they've done the work. They've earned it.
A lot of praise for this team from Niko Medved, and I'm just right there with him. I'm so impressed with this group's growth. I've seen teams that have a lot more talent and athleticism on paper than this unit suffer even just like a sliver of the adversity that CSU has gone through this year. And that word can be a cliche, but for lack of a better term, like they go through just a small portion of what the Rams have had to deal with, and it just completely kills their season. You see guys phone it in. I'm not trying to take shots. I think Nevada is a good example this year. I mean, they are a soft-ass team for the amount of talent that they have. For them to be as lackluster as they are from a night-to-night basis, it's a joke. And like, I just hope that the fans appreciate the growth they've seen from this team and also the coaching that has gone down, because I think if this team is still in the mix come March, and like obviously if they make the tournament, that's incredible. I think there's a real argument that this is the most impressive coaching job that we've seen from Medved since he's come, because from where this team was at 6-8 weeks ago to where they are right now, it's night and day. It's night and day. We're going to talk about some more key stats. I'm going to get you guys' questions and comments. We'll play some more clips, keep them rolling. We are going to acknowledge a couple more partners real quick. Starting with Coors Light. You know the drill. Choose chill, y'all. I love it when you guys tweet stuff like that at me. It genuinely makes me laugh every single time. But our partners at Coors Light, they encourage you to rise above, to choose a chill state of mind. It's easy to get worked up. Life is hard. If I've learned anything in the last couple of years, it's that adulthood, it gets real fast, and it can just be a lot to deal with. It can make you not very fun to be around. You don't want to be like that. You want to choose a chill state of mind. Then when you're chilling, when you're watching hoops, when you're kicked back, when you're relaxing, crack open an ice cold Coors Light. When the mountains turn blue, you know it. Cold as the Rockies. Cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smooth finish. Choose chill this winter. Reach for a Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door by visiting CoorsLight.com/DNVR, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. I also want to talk to you guys about Circle K. I spend a lot of time on I-25. Inherently, I spend a lot of time at gas stations. I'm a big gas station snack guy. Circle K has got some of the best around. I love their chocolate-covered peanuts. It's my go-to every time I'm there. But what's awesome about Circle K is they have the Inner Circle, which is easy to sign up for. All you got to do is sign up with your email and phone number. After that, you put your phone number in to get access to all kinds of deals. They're offering all types of little promotions for people in the Inner Circle constantly. But the big seller is that when you sign up, you can save 25 cents per gallon for your next 5 fill-ups. You got an SUV or something like that. I mean, that's significant money between 5 fill-ups. That's a night out on the town. That's, Chili's money. Download the Circle K app. Sign up for the Inner Circle for exclusive offer. New offers, purchase clubs, and sweepstakes are updated weekly. All right. I'm going to get into some key stats here, answer your guys' questions, comments if you have any before we get out. I'll be going live tomorrow as well. We'll be talking about some CSU football recruitment news, setting the scene for a big game against Fresno State out on the road. You've done a great job here of putting yourself in position to be in the mix in the second half of the league slate. The key is avoiding those catastrophic losses, because we've already seen some of the top teams suffer them. To CSU's credit, they don't really have a bad loss in league play yet. You got to avoid those. You're going to have to steal a couple that you're considered the underdog. If you're going to ultimately win the league as well, it's probably going to take, like I said, winning all your home games, not losing to any of the bad teams on the road, and maybe stealing one in like the Pitt or Utah State on top of that, just because the top half of the league is solid there, or the top third of the league or so. But you're doing a lot of things right now. And one of those is sharing the basketball. Another night in which CSU more than doubled up the opponent in assists. The Rams had 19 assists to just 9 from Boise State. I think there was a stretch early on in the first 5-6 minutes where both teams combined for like 10 assists on 12 made field goals. Maybe it wasn't quite that, but you get the picture. Both teams had 4 or 5 assists right out of the gate. And then after that, really it was just Degenhart playing bully ball down low for Boise State. Cardenas hit a couple of big shots. He's a really good player. He was awesome for San Jose State for a couple years. CSU went after him in the offseason. He took a visit to Fort Collins, pretty much came down to, Boise and CSU. Boise had a little less, or a few less question marks, coming into the season than they did. I think he got a nice little chunk of NIL as well, but he's a really good player. The Rams just had more guys contribute than Boise did. I don't know what's happened to Omar Stanley. Meadows wasn't great in this game. Degenhart was a monster, but they didn't get the collective effort that CSU did. I mean, you look at these numbers here. You get 27 and 7 from Neek, flirts with a triple-double. You get 13 out of Kyan Evans. He's 3 of 6 from the floor, 3 of 5 from deep. I love his shot selection. He also goes 4 of 5 at the free throw line, dishes out 6 assists. You love to see that. I think it's been huge. And my buddy Matt Clapp tweeted this at us on the DNVR Rams account last night. It's been so big for Kyan to become more assertive as a shot maker, one, but also as a facilitator. And being able to have him or Neek, initiate the actions for you, it improves the flow and makes you less stagnant, makes you more versatile, makes you tougher to defend. You can get some catch and shoot opportunities for Neek, so he's not having to create everything for himself off the dribble. His growth has been huge. And if CSU is going to play a factor here in February and March, I think Kyan is going to be a huge part of that. And I think it's a perfect example of why sometimes you've just got to be patient, man. There were moments early on in the season where he looked like a young guard stepping into a starting role, trying to replace a legend. Like it was a tough spot. I've talked a lot about how trying to fill Isaiah Stevens' shoes is a really tough spot. You're basically setting the kid up for disappointment there. But I mean, he was the Missouri Gatorade Player of the Year for a reason. He is highly skilled, and I just think he continues to grow as he gets more opportunities. You got 6 points out of Japa, which was great. His first career start. We'll see how much more, he plays down the stretch, but getting, a combined 13 out of him and Jorgensen, and let's see how many minutes they combined for 13 points in 26 minutes. That's awesome. Japa had 4 boards in only 15 minutes as well. So that could be an area where he could make potentially a bigger impact for you. Kashan only had 5 points, but that 3 that he hit was loud, man. It's late in the shot clock. The Rams have had a couple of bad offensive possessions. He just hits one with a defender in his face. You love to see that. 46% from the floor, solid. Boise was 52% from the floor. Again, I really do feel like both teams played well. Both teams were in single digits when it comes to turnovers. The Rams with 7, Boise with 8. One of the keys for me, though, is that CSU did a better job of taking advantage of Boise State's mistakes, particularly in that second half. The Rams had 6 offensive rebounds in the second half. They had 11 second chance points. They also had, or I'm reading the wrong side. They had 8 second chance points, excuse me. They had 11 points off turnovers, which, again, you get 19 points off turnovers / second chance opportunities. That's a big factor in a 3-point game. Both teams shot their free throws pretty well. They didn't turn the ball over a ton. Really what it came down to is CSU hit more big shots than Boise State did. And sometimes that can be a little bit fluky. Like, I don't know if you're going to hit double-digit threes every single night, especially if and be able to win if the other team's going 52% from the floor. if they're scoring 40 points in the paint and they're winning the battle on the glass, although only by one. I just felt like the Rams had some really timely buckets. They had some key offensive rebounds, especially in that second half. None bigger than the one from Jalen Crocker Johnson, which leads to the game winner from Jalen Lake. They're doing the little things well right now. You've got guys working hard, and you've got selfless teammates, sharing the ball and making the right reads, which if you do that consistently enough, you're going to get good looks. And to CSU's credit, they're knocking down those looks over the last 5 games outside of a kind of fluky performance against a physical San Diego State team in Viejas. And even in that game, you shot the 3 ball pretty well. So, the jump shooting numbers are trending in the right direction, and probably across the board look better than they have in a couple of years. I think it's been big to have multiple guys being able to contribute. And again, this isn't a fluke. They've averaged 11 made threes over the last 5 games. I think that's pretty much it in terms of the key stats that we really need to hone in on. One thing I want to focus on, and then I'll get to some questions and comments, and then we'll get out of here, is I just want to double down on it being so cool that a selfless player like Jalen Lake is getting this opportunity this year and that he's living up to the moment. Comes in as a freshman, contributes right away off the bench for that Roddy Stevens team. Hit some threes against Michigan in the NCAA tournament, and you're thinking, man, future's pretty bright for this kid. He kind of builds off that in year 2. Year 3, you're assuming he's going to go to the starting lineup, but they bring in Joel Scott. They bring in Niko Clifford. And now all of a sudden it makes more sense for him to come off the bench. And he embraced it. I think a lot of people would have packed their bags and transferred at that point. He embraced it. He had some big moments. He had double-digit scoring against CU. He was huge against Nevada in the Mountain West tournament. And now this year as a starter, just night after night, he's shooting the ball the best of his career. He's getting the most opportunities. And you love to see it. Like, that was what college basketball used to be. Admittedly, this is kind of what I romanticize in the portal era, somebody being willing to stick it out for 4 years and, go through some highs and lows and grow not only as a player, but as a person. And I'm really happy for him. He's easy to root for. And I've talked about that a lot with Neek, like how his story is just so cool. And like, how can you not root for a guy like him? Feel very similarly about Jalen Lake. He's just such a down-to-earth kid, great teammate. He works his tail off, and he's improved every single year. And here is him and Niko Clifford post game, and like Jalen Lake is my player in the game this one. But here's them post game, kind of talking about a big win.
That final possession, Neek drives, Jalen gets the offense board.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Croc for that big offensive rebound, and then just him being able to find me, and I'm just able to step up and knock it down. Honestly, I mean, after that, I just kind of blacked out. I was kind of worried about getting back on defense and making sure they didn't get one up, but yeah.
Obviously, you've had a couple of those weird ones, this year, past couple of years. What was that feeling when it does go out and, you won it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was awesome. I mean, it was a great feeling. Just credit to Boise State. They fought back after us being up for that margin. So it was fun, and it was a fight the whole night.
What kind of changed in that second half?
They made their run. It was going to be at some point that they're going to make their run. That's just how the game goes. So, we weren't able to withstand their run at times. We gave them too many easy baskets. We were fouling a lot. And so we just had to be more disciplined. So we let them get going. They came back. But, we hung in there and, made plays at the end of the game, which was critical, man. That's a good team over there.
It can be a little bit shell-shocking, to be at 17, then you look up with a minute left, you're trailing. What does it say about this team's maturity that you're able to kind of weather that storm and pull out a big win?
Yeah, I think it's credit to our resilience, our adversity that we've been through all season. We've been tested. We've been in a lot of close games. And so early in the year, I don't know if we would have won that game. And so it just shows how much better we've gotten, being able to get over that hump and, finish and close out games.
Niko, what's your view of the Jalen shot there?
Man, I thought I got fouled, but I don't know. You know, I don't even know where the shot went. I was on the ground, and then, you know, I see Croc get the board, big time rebound, kick out, and it's Lake, man. You know, it's gonna be 3 of them. It's gonna be 3 of them. So that was big time. But I seen the arc going right in the rim, and I was just so happy, man.
What kind of challenges does Degenhart present defensively? He's just so physical out there.
Yeah, I mean he's super physical. I mean he could shoot it from 3, and he can also put it on the floor and get inside. He's super patient on the block. So I mean we just had to be intentional with him the whole night. I mean he creates problems. So yeah.
Was it
I love Neek talking about Jalen Lake and, you know, never doubting that he would hit that shot. It's Lake, man. You know it's going to be 3 of them. You can just tell that this team is tight, that they enjoy playing together, and you know they're quietly a contender here in the Mountain West. I don't think that when most folks are talking about the league as a whole and they're talking about the contenders, it's been a lot of emphasis on Utah State and another hot start by them. Obviously, New Mexico's dangerous with Donovan Dent and Nelly Joseph Jr. and all those guys they've got down there. San Diego State basically just on brand, and the fact that they have such a great home court advantage, although they have looked very, very pedestrian of late. And then, you know, Boise was the preseason favorite. Now they've already got four losses in the league slate, and you're looking up at CSU, who's 6-2 with an opportunity to jump to 8-2 over the first half of the schedule. You've got more home games than road games over the second half of the stretch. It's close. It's 6-4, but still. You're in a golden opportunity here to potentially win the regular season league title for the first time ever. My preseason prediction was that this team would be much better come March than they were in November. I've talked about how they struggled more than I anticipated out of the gate. There were a lot of factors. There's some context that goes into that. You know, we love to simplify everything with the hot takes online. Sometimes you got to be patient, and you got to give an opportunity, or you've got to give a team with so many new pieces an opportunity to work through some things. And I think that's what CSU has done. Now, you know, this isn't the most talented Rams team I've ever seen of all time or anything like that, but they've got the right pieces in place. And I think this rotation is meshing well. And in a year where nobody is unbeatable in the conference, you might just be able to make a little bit of noise here down the stretch, and, you know, maybe even potentially bring home some hardware, which from where we were at 6-8 weeks ago to where we're at now is just remarkable. And I love college basketball. I love Mountain West hoops in particular. I'm trying not to be too repetitive. I know I make some of these points a lot, but I will miss Mountain West hoops more than I miss Mountain West football. There's just something about the league slate every year that is just thrilling. You get high level games. The parity has been great. It feels like there haven't been a ton of years where you have a Gonzaga. I mean, there's like that 30-win San Diego State team that was pretty dang dominant, but even, you know, Utah State pushed them. We didn't get the NCAA tournament in 2020, but we got the Mountain West tournament. Sam Merrill hits that big game winner at the top of the key to knock them out. So like, it just feels like every single game there's an opportunity for either side to win, and that's good for your league. That means it's going to be competitive. It means it's going to be entertaining. And I know there are a lot of folks out there that, you know, basically only tune in for the NCAA tournament, but they're missing out, because you get 2-3 just absolute thrillers a week in the Mountain West. And if all you watch is CSU, I'd recommend turning on some of these other games. I know it's a lot to follow. I know everybody's got a lot going on. I've been having to record more games than ever and follow that way, just because I've got the hockey stuff going on top of it. I mean, it's a lot to follow, but it's awesome. The product is great. I cannot wait for the Mountain West tournament, and I can't wait to see how the second half of this league slate plays out, because, you know, I figured this team would be much better by this stage of the year than they were in the non-conference slate, but I'm pretty optimistic, and I don't know if even I thought that this team would have a realistic chance to be in the mix and potentially contend for a conference title, which is really, really cool. You know, my guy Steve Ivey saying it in the Toyota chat. It's a great day to be a Ram. It's always a great day to be a Ram, but especially after you beat Boise State. There are certain wins over certain schools that just resonate a little bit more, where you take just a little bit more satisfaction there. Boise State is in that for me. San Diego State is up there. I like beating Nevada. I won't lie. Just all the stuff that's gone down between the two schools the last couple of years. I like beating Nevada, but there's just something about beating Boise that feels just a little bit sweeter than, when you beat Fresno or San Jose State or even UNLV, which is a great program. CSU's got a lot of history with them. But I think it's just the back and forth of the series that's made it kind of have some meaning. Like I said, it's 6-6 over the last 12 games. You look back over the last decade, there have been so many thrilling matchups between these two teams that come down to one possession or two possessions, game-winning shots, overtime games, you name it. Both these teams have been right there in the mix for the last 4 or 5 years, and that regular season finale in Boise could ultimately have a lot of meaning for CSU if they're able to take care of business here over the next 11 games. In between that, I'll have all kinds of content coming your way. Keep your eyes out for written content. I'll have a written feature on that game, some takeaways on what's been going well for CSU as well. We'll have recruiting content on the football side. I still think we'll get some news as far as an offensive play caller here sometime. I don't want to put a timeline on it. Between now and spring, I thought we might already have some of those answers by now. But I am still standing by what I said, a week and a half ago. I still think that CSU will have a play caller. I think there's a good chance it's Matt Mumme. I think Chase Horlbrook goes from offensive analyst to QB coach in that scenario. But we shall see. We shall see how all of it plays out. We've gotten some answers on the defensive side. Will be plenty to hit on over the next couple months. I'm just excited that we get to focus on hoops for another couple months as well, because if this season totally went down the drain and we're like having to do spring ball position battles in early February, I would have ripped my hair out. I mean, it's a long off season. We've got a long time to go until we've got like actual football practices that really matter. And I know college hoops isn't the moneymaker that college football is, but damn if I don't love it. I'm just so thankful that I get to do this. I'm so thankful that all of you want to, engage with me and talk hoops. I have as much fun covering CSU men's basketball as I do with anything in my career. And I am tight with the staff. Like, I root for them, obviously, but it's cool to see. It's been cool to see what this team has been able to do. And I'm excited to see how they can finish down the stretch. That's all I've got for you guys. Shout out to Riley behind the scenes, making all of this happen so smoothly. The man operating the sticks, putting together all these clips, making the visuals for us, making sure that this show pops. Couldn't do it without him. Couldn't do it without all of you guys. Much love, y'all. Always proud to be. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.